Please, if there are any other questions, throw them in the chat here in the Q&A window. But that is a high-level overview of how Smallstep integrates with Jamf, and you can use it in your day-to-day flows. Summarizing real quick, we had 4 key tenets here that we're addressing: inventory, credentials, configuration, and enforcement. In our instance here, Jamf provided both the inventory and the configuration with Smallstep functioning at the credential and enforcement layer in this model. And so after a simple API configuration in Jamf, we did a device sync over from all of our devices to our Smallstep inventory. And then all we had to do was just swap the Wi-Fi payload to use an Acme-based certificate instead of a SCEP-based. And so it's an incredible tight integration. I'm personally very excited with this partnership in Jamf moving forward, and it's really quite slick how the overall solution can just push out these certificates just as we would normally, but with this crazy benefit as far as security. Let's see. What kind of feedback are you hearing from Jamf customers who want stronger certificate-based access? That's a great question. High level, I think they're looking beyond like 2025 into the biggest threats coming in moving forward. A couple of our largest enterprises are dealing with physical security threats where they don't implicitly trust the computers that are being shipped to them. And so if they can verify the TPM, they can verify the attestation key of the computer in front of them as it's enrolled in MDM, as it's onboarded to Smallstep, they have that higher level of assurance that this device actually is that device. Generally, though, and I think from a more human level, the stronger certificate-based access is great, but it also comes with a lot of user experience benefits. So these particular customers don't want to deal with phishing training as much, because if they're requiring these certificates for Wi-Fi, VPN, and single sign-on, you can phish through users all you want. You're not going to get access to these systems. So from the human perspective, I'd say that's more interesting to people. Beyond that, I'd say it's also just usability benefits. So since we're using native protocols, if you run into any potential issues, you can also just restart your device, do a new sync with Jamf, and immediately we get this implicit security benefit. So I'd say that's the general feedback we're getting back from Jamf customers.
It would be great to hear Jesse and Ryan's perspective on that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually going to kind of add to that. I think like one of the biggest things that we hear often is, kind of like what Hunter said up top, is that SCEP is problematic, and I think that the overwhelming conversation that happens around device attestation right now, honestly, for me, most of the time, and I wonder if Jesse has a similar experience, has been just explaining what device attestation actually means, and because it is such a newer concept, and I feel like people are very used to the way things used to work, and with this kind of new paradigm, it changes the conversation pretty drastically, and so it ends up leading down some very very different paths than what we're used to with like the legacy type of strong certificate authentication, things like that. It's just a very different conversation, and that's what's been great about this partnership, is we've been able to bring them in to talk about it. So yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, I think a part of it too is just making security easy and making security user friendly and maintaining the Apple experience, because device attestation is leveraging Apple native technology. We're not having to deal with really awkward, clunky workflows, and that makes your lives easier as an admin, but it also is super smooth from a user perspective because everything end to end is Apple ecosystem. And so there's it's just a really good user experience.
Cool. Yeah, thank you both. Next question: how long does it take to set up the integration between Jamf and Smallstep, and what is the lift on our team to get started? Who should be involved? Answering the first part of the question, this entire demo took me about 20 minutes last night to throw together. So that said, assuming I already have a Jamf tenant set up with the device already in it, creating a new Smallstep team, setting up the device inventory sync, and then adding the payload in Jamf took 20 minutes. From an IT resource perspective, you need somebody who has access to your MDM, so your access to Jamf, whomever has access to the Smallstep dashboard, and then whatever resources in scope, be it Wi-Fi, VPN servers, whomever is responsible for managing credentials on those servers. So generally, I think the answer is client platform engineers tend to be the people we speak to, but it can span anywhere through infrastructure.
Yeah, I for one was actually personally very impressed with how quick the setup actually is. Once it's done, it is actually really quick. It's basically some API roles and clients, go into Smallstep, add them, let it sync, and it takes really no time at all. If you set up an API connection between like Jamf Security Cloud and Jamf Pro, for example, or Jamf Protect and Jamf Pro, you know how fast those things can be. It's very much like that. It's very quick.
Awesome. And then Jesse, I think you mentioned ahead of the call, you had a couple questions.
Yeah, I'm curious. Could you explain the difference between Acme and Acme DA?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Acme protocol was written, I really need to look this up, either in the late 90s or early 2000s. I'm sure there's an exact date somewhere. As part of Let's Encrypt's ecosystem. So it stands for Automated Certificate. Oh, wow. I'm getting rusty this morning. I guess we're out of coffee in the Hawk household. But it's a protocol by Let's Encrypt. Traditionally, it's used for DNS-based validation of domains. So if you're proving to a certificate authority that you own so-and-so.com, they give you a text record, you'd pop it into DNS, and then as soon as it resolves for so-and-so.com, you've officially proven to the registrar that you are that entity. And so, thank you, Ryan. Automated certificate management environment. I keep trying to throw enrollment in there somewhere. So beyond that, there are a few challenge types that have existed. So DNS-01 was the one I just described. HTTP-01 is another common one. You take the string and host it on a path for a server. And then when the domain could, well, when the certificate authority could hit that endpoint, you've proven you run that server. There's additionally like a TLS-01. I might be missing others, but we added the device attest-01 challenge type to the existing standard, which can then do this exchange cryptographically with a TPM or secure enclave. And so it's just really adding one additional challenge type to the overall standard that's existed for decades.
Makes sense. Thank you.
I can chime in. As the host, we had the honor of sponsoring JNUC, Jamf's user conference a couple weeks ago. One question we constantly got at the booth was, when someone hears hardware-backed device identity, they think that if they have to let go of an employee, they're stuck. Like they have the laptop, they have the physical element. So what would you say happens when someone needs to be offboarded and that access needs to be revoked immediately, and what that process is like?
Great question, because that does come up a lot. So the benefit of our offering is that the core technology is our like open source authorities. On top of that, we're layering in active revocation via CRL and OCSP responders. And so once the employee is terminated, we can just revoke the certificate on the device, remove the device from inventory in Smallstep, quarantine it from Jamf. And then from there, they lose all access to anything they could potentially use that certificate for. So it's dead, and then it kills access for the device to then issue another credential.
I'll throw another question out there. What makes Smallstep different than other folks out there in the market?
I love that, because that also comes up a lot. So the biggest objection that comes up a lot for us is why like what is different between the technology you're doing and everybody else? Obviously, there's the Acme component. So everything is hardware bound, key attested. We do have a couple competitors in the space in the certificate issuance part who can do Acme device attestation. But from my understanding, we are the only company in the world that can do it cross-platform. So it's natively supported in the Apple ecosystem. I know of a few companies that can support it there, but we have PKCS11 connectors for TPMs on Windows, Linux, and Chrome OS, with more to follow. So we're working on an Android app. We're working for an iPhone app. Well, iOS actually works inherently if you're using Jamf. But as far as I know, nobody else can do it cross-platform. And so with our solution, you can actually have a single source of truth, pull in not just Jamf, but your other MDMs, your other unmanaged devices into Smallstep. And then from there, you have a single source of truth of all the devices you trust, beyond just a bunch of disparate device inventories. Okay. Let's see. Jesse, Ryan, I'm curious your thoughts. Have you seen any functional benefits from any customers that are ditching SCEP?
From a device attestation standpoint, you know,
I guess what are they asking you? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing that I keep hearing right now, like obviously everybody's got something going on with device attestation. We have our own service called Network Relay that we're talking about a lot, and it uses device attestation in the background. That's kind of the idea. What we're getting a lot of is the light bulb moment with admins when you realize, oh, I can actually have this attestation happening for a service that otherwise would have required an IDP or otherwise would have required user interaction. I can have this just drop onto a device, have this device backed authentication happen in the background. So like in the Wi-Fi scenario, that's how it always happens. But in other scenarios where you can use that in place of an IDP or in place of some additional step or authentication method, the fact that you can, like, for example, brand new Mac, dropped on the end user's front porch, they pick it up, they pull the cellophane off, they go through the setup. You're encrypting with a relay automatically based on device attestation before they ever hit a desktop. That is an incredible thing for admins and for security people, because you don't have to worry whether or not somebody's going to go and click on the VPN to enable it. That you don't have to worry about someone going through a process to make that happen. So where I get really excited about device attestation is use cases like that, where you can enable functionality with as little to no interaction completely silently on an end user computer. And then just kind of back away and let it happen, understanding that this is all going to function the way I expect it to. That's been the win for me, and I feel like a lot of organizations that we're talking to, that is the light bulb moment. That's the, oh my gosh, yes, this is incredible, I want to use it for more things. And it seems like a lot of people are getting really excited about those use cases.
Awesome. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Ryan. Jen, unless you have anything else in the chat that I'm not seeing, I think we're good to go ahead and wrap up.
Yeah, I think you're good. Thank you,
Yeah.
Ryan and Jesse. That was great dialogue from you two.
Yeah, and thank you everybody for joining our webinar this morning. If you missed the last one, I believe it's available on Smallstep's YouTube page. You just search Smallstep on YouTube, we should be the first result. Alternatively, I think Jen has a link post pinned on our LinkedIn page as well. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us here at Smallstep and Jamf. We'd be excited to talk to you about device attestation and its uses in like Network Relay. Okay, thank you all. Have a great week.